a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. Knows what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
It's been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm your host as always, Corey, and alongside me is my good pal Tony. What's going on, brother?
Not much, bud. How you been? How's everything going?
I've been good. Been living the life.
Yes, sir. Got to live it up.
Yeah.
Got to enjoy it.
Yeah. So what you been up to, man? How's your work week going? How's life?
Oh, life's great, man. Getting my nose busted at work and fucking gushing blood everywhere. It's fantastic.
It's always
If I look like I got into a street brawl, it's because I injured myself at work. Just,
happens to the best of us.
Yeah, hazards of the job, dude, and shit like that happens. But yeah, hopefully it heals sooner rather than later. And yeah, I'll go back to feeling 100%. But
you might within like the next couple days, you might have like darkness underneath your eyes and everything.
No, dude, I'm honestly surprised I didn't get a black eye out of it. The way it hit me, the way the product hit me, my really the right side of my nose took the brunt of it, but got to a point where it swelled pretty substantially, and it did kind of look like I had a black eye, but I didn't. So I don't know, dude. Luckily, nothing broke, and just wait for it to heal and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a great way to pretty much start out the work week for me. But other than that, man, shit's rolling. Shit's good. How about you, man? How you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. I got to run a machine at work that I haven't ran in like months. Actually, no one's touched in months, so that was always fun. Yeah. I got to dust it off and run it. It was cool. I missed that machine. So I had fun with it. I thought I was gonna have to like work on it a little bit and get it, fine tune and adjust it, but it ran like butter for me. I was like, yes, this is awesome.
Hell yeah, man. Gotta love when a situation goes smoothly like that.
Oh, it was so good. And then so the guy that used to work with you out at Home Depot, he was actually feeding me parts. Next thing you know, he's like, hey, you're gonna be down for a minute. I was like, okay, cool. So I went up there to see what was going on, and he bent a whole hydraulic shaft in half. Like this is like a 2-inch shaft, and it was bent. And I was like, how the fuck did you do that? Like, so
it sounds like a hard thing to actually make happen, and it sounds expensive.
Yeah. And on top of it, like I got like 12 parts in, machine was running great. And then he told me that, so we called maintenance over, and then they were just like, yeah, we don't have another one of those in shop right now. We got to order that. It's like, shit. So the one time I can actually get up there and run that machine, I got to shut it down.
Right.
I got to run it for a little bit. It was fun.
Yeah.
It's always fun doing something different at work.
100%, man. Agree with you. Breaks the monotony.
Mm-hmm. So, Tony, we got kind of a theme, don't we, for everyone? Kind of rolling in. We're gonna start it tonight and roll it into next month. Is that what we're doing, or
roll it into May? Yeah, we talked about it a little bit pregame and just kind of because we always kind of come up, or we always try to come up with a theme for the month that we're covering a particular topic. And I think this month, going into next month, May, I think we're gonna go with gritty, grimy New York horror films.
Mm-hmm.
Films that take place in the 70s, 80s, grindhouse, 42nd Street, all kinds of grimy, disgusting, graffiti-filled New York.
Perverse, sleazy.
Backdrops, and guerrilla-style filmmaking. Your Henenlotter, your Larry Cohen, your, William Lustig, guys like those, man.
Speaking of like sleazy films, was there ever there was a Jess Franco film from New York, wasn't there?
A Jess Franco film? I don't think so.
Didn't God Told Me?
Oh,
Was that?
that's a Larry Cohen film.
Oh, okay, I thought that was just Franco.
Yeah, that's a Larry Cohen. Which
Okay.
honestly, on my letterbox, glad you mentioned that movie. I think it's really, truly underrated.
Hmm.
Um, Fortunately, not a lot of people talk about that film, but it's fantastic, dude. I love it.
Hmm.
Uh, Really needs more love and recognition, I believe. Which is another thing I'd love to do. Go through our top. I did a list on Letterbox going through my top 10 severely underrated horror films. Um, which I come up with a list like right off the top of my head, and just ones that I always feel like don't get enough love or don't get enough credit for being as fantastic as they are. But I'm honest, that's a side note thing.
Well,
We discussed doing some grimy New York horror.
yeah.
That's what we're gonna go with. So
I'm glad you mentioned that kind of underrated stuff. Would you consider the film that we're covering tonight kind of a little underrated?
it does get, especially with this new. Well, it's not new. It's been out for a couple of years at this point, but
Hmm.
this Synapse Blu-ray that came out. Man, I want to say it was the early 2010s, sometime around there. It
Hmm.
was released, and like I said, I got my copy here. I know you have a copy of this as well. It's really neat. The cover art's fantastic. Really, really shows what kind of colors and um, what you're going to see in the movie. It's a lot of vibrant, very, very vibrant. I'd say like almost pastel colors, and it's really beautiful. And it pops on this Blu-ray. This transfer is
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah, I
But
think we were talking about that a little bit because I'm
yeah,
sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
no, dude, no. I wanted to get back to your question, whether you feel like this movie might be underrated. In a lot of ways, it could be, but I think it gets the credit it deserves as far as people talk about body melt films. And
Hmm.
honestly, when you think of body melt films, it's to me, just in my opinion, it's one of the first ones I think of, just
Hmm.
because, uh, just because of the viciousness of the melting scenes themselves. They really stick with me, and I never forget the first time I watched it. Never forgot it. The interesting way that these particular, well, not just hobos, but other people too in the movie melt away and stuff like that. It's really really interesting with the colors.
Hmm.
That when more traditional body melt movies and stuff like that don't really have these poppy, vibrant colors and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and I think that's why I kind of resonate with it. But to get with what you're saying, like I was showing a guy at work the trailer
yeah,
for this film. You could definitely tell that it's not an up to date trailer on YouTube.
mhm,
You find this film and it's like dark and you could barely make out the colors and stuff. So Synapse really cleaned the piss out of this film. I fully believe that. And I believe they did that with Brain Damage too. Brain Damage was kind of on the darker side as
mhm,
well when I went back and looked at like old transfer trailers and stuff for it.
right. Well, I
You
do
know.
have the Synapse DVD of Brain Damage, and I don't know. I've been watching my Arrow Blu-ray so much lately that I kind of lost track of what that transfer actually looks like. But
Hmm.
being Synapse, their mark of quality is always there, so I'm
Hmm.
sure it's fantastic. Um, so there's no doubt in my mind that print looks great. But the Arrow Blu-ray looks primo. It's beautiful.
Nice.
So
I need to get a copy of that.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think delving into um, gritty New York is going to be fun, man. I really, really enjoyed. I've been watching not just horror, but I've been watching a lot of. And I'm not trying to get on a side tangent or anything like that, but I've been watching a lot of gritty, grimy New York films as of late. So it's kind of got me in the mood to kind of revisit some of my favorite horror films that take place in New York in that time period.
Oh yeah.
I'm watching a lot of stuff like The Exterminator, Vigilante, a lot of really, really fantastic, just grimy. Just you can, it's sleazy, and it's like you see 42nd Street, and before it was cleaned up, the porno theaters and stuff like that, and
Everywhere, yeah.
it's just cool to see that, man, because it's this. I mean, as many people know, the streets of New York have been cleaned up for a long time now, and
Mm-hmm.
you just it's like going back into like revisiting a sweet time in history that we'll never see again. It's completely gone, but it's just cool that we still have it on film.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But anyway, given that this movie right here definitely, in a lot of ways, sorry for the glare, it definitely harkens back to gritty, grimy New York. There's a lot of graffiti and a lot of cool little shots and stuff like that. Because this movie, for all intents and purposes, is as wacky as it is and as weird as the premise is. It's shot really well. The camera
Mhm.
work is beautiful. There's even a shot where it really reminds me of Sam Raimi's camera work, where there's a certain hobo that's melting in the toilet. That scene, and it pretty much zooms in. It does that Evil Dead zoom
Mhm.
to the toilet to where he's finally melted. But I just thought immediately after seeing that, I was like, man, that's Sam Raimi all day, every day.
Yeah.
I really appreciated the camera work, especially in the opening, and it's fantastic. But yeah, so we are covering, for this episode, we're covering 1987's Street Trash, for everyone that's
Mhm.
wanting to hear the title and everything like that. So
And yes, and we haven't spoiled it yet, but we are going to. So if you
yeah,
haven't seen this film, I highly recommend you watch it and then come back to us because it will get spoiled on this.
for sure, absolutely. Definitely going to be talking extensively about this one. It's wacky. It's a good time.
Yep, definitely. So Tony, I guess let's get into the plot. What's the plot?
Man, the plot's very, very minimal. I mean, me and you were kind of talking before. It's like it's almost like there really wasn't any plot
Mm-mm.
to be had. It's just an excuse to have awesome melting effects, and of course, you have a catalyst for people melting, and
Mhm.
just the life of a bunch of, which one of the hobos says the name of the group of hobos that are living in this kind of like this used car lot by the East Bay, I think he calls them the Flatbush Foot Brigade, which that's what I'm going to call them. This group is led by well, we follow our main character Fred, who's really young, kind of just bum that just loves the life. He doesn't really have any ambitions and goals in life. He just really loves being a bum,
Mhm.
and he's kind of our main protagonist, and we follow the life through him and his friend and his brother, his younger brother, who lives with him on the car lot. But really, there's an alpha male hobo, and his name is Bronson, and he kind of has everybody scared, and he throws his weight around. He used to be a Vietnam vet, so he's really intense. And
Mhm.
I mean, the guy carries around a femur bone that he got from Nam that he cut into a blade. So that just goes to show how intense and crazy this dude is.
Mhm.
But basically, he's like the crime boss of the Flatbush Foot Brigade. I love that. That's a great description for this group of guys. But yeah, they're just living the life, and Fred loves going to this liquor store and messing with this liquor store guy named Ed. Who he gives shit to. He's always giving shit. They give each other, they give each other shit back and forth. You just kind of have that relationship. But Ed, coincidentally enough, finds a bottle of booze that's been locked away in this liquor store for what has to be
Maybe
decades.
since like Prohibition or something.
Prohibition, even, yeah, Prohibition, even. So
He just randomly opens up a hole in the wall and he's like, "Oh, what's this? Oh, a whole case of liquor."
yeah, he digs around and he finds a whole case of liquor, and it's called Tenafly Viper. Which, if if you want, here's a really, really cool image of what the label looks like. It's really neat. This is included when you get the Blu-ray. You get a actual like vinyl sticker that you can actually make your own Tenafly Viper bottle, which I've seen a lot of people do, which is really neat. Take a bottle very similar to the one that you see in the movie, and they just peel the label off and they stick that label on there, and they have their own movie prop pretty much.
Mhm.
But yeah, he finds this this bottle of rot gut, pretty much, and he puts it on the counter for $1. And of course, the homeless guys love it because that's pretty much all they can afford if they can find anything, as far as like scrimping around through to find change and whatnot. So, but it turns out the thing about this Tenafly Viper is, as soon as you drink it, it makes you completely melt into a puddle of goo. And in some instances, it makes you explode. So it's really neat. But yeah, like I said, there's no basic plot to this movie. It's just a bunch of hobos hanging out. You see the day in the life of various characters, with Fred being the main character. His interactions with all the other hobos, they fight, they don't get along.
Well,
really,
they're constantly like out to steal from each other. It's really ridiculous.
Constantly stepping on each other's toes, stealing from one another. I mean, we can even talk about the opening scene if you want to a little bit, man, how fucking wild it is and how it sets the tone for the movie. Because this is a really darkly comedic overall flick too. There's a lot of dark comedy in this, and there's a lot of shit that's said in this movie that you really can't say today. It will not fly.
No.
There's a lot of shit. They really, the guy that wrote the script really pushed forth like offending everybody. Because there's a lot of shit that you just can't repeat. I can't repeat it. We can't really even talk about half the lines that are said in this movie.
There's like community guidelines at this point.
Oh yeah, for sure. We would be definitely
we'll get reported,
flagged or whatever. Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, I mean, basically, the movie starts out with our character Fred, being at Ed's liquor store. He kind of steals a bottle of booze, runs off. He's getting chased down, and this is the best thing. I was kind of telling you about it. When he runs out into the street, there's a guy that swerves to kind of miss him in the car, and when his car hits, I think, another car, basically his car, he doesn't just get into a car accident. His car just completely just falls apart. The fenders fall off. The whole car just completely falls apart, which I thought was hilarious. You just don't see that very often when you see a car crash in a film. So, but yeah, he's getting chased. So then after he's getting chased by the employee, then he gets chased by the guy that was driving the car. So it's an even longer chase scene. And then he runs into a building that's on fire. It's just a prolonged chase scene, which I think is so fantastic. He runs into a couple, they're about to get it on, and he's like, "Get the fuck out the building, the building's on fire." And they start flipping out. He has a second to smack the girl on the ass while they're trying to get out. And you see people like hauling ass down the stairs. They're carrying shit out of their apartments. It's just chaos, man. Pure chaos.
I think I told you that I was writing down a note there, and then I look up and all I see is like some guy's floppy dick just flailing around all over the place. Yeah. I was like, what the fuck did I just miss?
Yeah, man, it's gnarly, dude. It's over. It's just completely just bonkers, really. But yeah, man, it's a cool way to set up the film. You really get to know your character, Fred. Like I said, he really doesn't have any ambition. He just wants to be a bum. He loves the life. He loves
that opening scene. I did write down, there was a funny little tidbit where every time somebody would start chasing Fred, they would holler out, "Get back here, you little bastards!"
Right.
Several of them called him a little bastard.
Yeah.
That was a funny little tidbit.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Look, dude, if you want to get a lot of enjoyment out of this film, me and you were kind of discussed. You just listen to like the background noise and the background dialogue, because there's a lot of funny shit that you hear in the background too. It's like I said, there's always a line you're just like, "What? Did I really just hear that?" But
I picked up on several of them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's tons of them. But so basically, the first kind of melt scene we get is one of the I don't know the name of the bum, but he kind of steals the Tenafly Viper from Fred, kind of sneaks away and stuff like that, finds his own little area.
a woman's bathroom.
Yeah, a woman's
with
bathroom,
no walls.
Right, completely decimated. He's in like
He
that.
He didn't walk around the wall that was just not there.
Yeah.
He literally opened a door and then closed it, and then the wall that was existing fell over.
Fell over. Yeah, dude, it's great, man.
Oh, it's so
Take
bonkers.
a swig of the Tenafly Viper and just melts. And dude, the melting scenes in this movie are just so fantastic, man. The colors are just so bright. I mean, and they pop on this Blu-ray transfer, dude. It's incredible how this Blu-ray looks. And it's actually the cover of the movie too, is that scene in particular. Even with his hand holding on to like the pulley for
the flusher or whatever.
Getting almost caught on there. But yeah, that's that. And then so the police kind of are investigating the series of like meltings going on with the hobos, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And I like this because there's a little with this particular investigation, and then there's our kind of commentary with Bronson, who used to be a Vietnam vet. There's a lot of commentary on Nam in this movie too, because I think at one point we follow another character named Bill. He's a police officer, and he's trying to figure out what the hell is causing all these people to melt in the city. And he even is talking to the coroner when they're examining what's left of the body, and he says, "You think it could be that? What did he say exactly? How did he phrase it? You think it'd be that jelly in Nam?" So I'm guessing he's kind of like representing Agent Orange, kind of.
I thought he said napalm.
Napalm
from
I
Nam.
remember he said Nam jelly or something like that.
Okay, I thought he said napalm from Nam.
Yeah, he phrased it kind of like that. So I'm thinking like there's a lot of. So I'm thinking maybe like, oh, maybe this is like a commentary on Agent Orange.
I think what they were trying to go for with the script was because he was such a fucked up guy from Vietnam.
Yeah,
they were maybe thinking that he was doing this.
Yeah,
or something. But it just never worked out that way. They didn't write that movie that way. But I think it was. How should I put it? Kind of. I think they were anticipating possibly making that part of the plot, like the investigation was going toward. What's his name? Bronson,
yeah.
Because he was a basically like schizophrenic from Vietnam.
Yeah,
because he was pretty fucked up in the head because he was having hallucinations of Vietnam and stuff.
Completely fucked up in the head, and you see a lot of his like dreams and his hallucinations in the movie too about Nam, and just his experience. Like you can tell Nam really fucked him up. He probably had some prior problems going into Nam, but you could tell Nam like set him over the edge and caused him to turn into this fucking super homicidal, evil bastard who runs the junkyard off of fear. These guys are all afraid of him and don't want to stand up to him. He almost sits like he's the king of the junkyard. He almost sits on like a throne.
Yeah, he has like a throne.
It's insane. Yeah, it's really cool. But he's I love his monologues and just the shit that he's sprouting out about Nam and all the shit that he saw. And I really can't say a lot of it, but it's fantastic hearing his monologues for real. He flips out on one dude because, of course, if you're going to have a movie about bums, you have to have them pulling over cars and trying to clean windows and stuff to get extra money. But there's this yuppie guy and his girlfriend that pull up to a light, and the girlfriend's like, "We got to move. We got to go. We can't stop. We can't stop. They're gonna come up to the car. They're gonna come up to the car." And sure enough, Bronson comes up to the car, and he's listening to the guy. And the guy's just trying to make small talk with him.
Yeah, he's like, "Can you get that spot right there?"
Yeah, but he says like, oh God, what was it? Basically, he's in the reserves, and he was trying to connect with Bronson because he saw that he was a vet, and he's like, "Yeah, they let me shoot those I can't even remember, like miniguns that you guys shot in Nam." He's like, "Pretty fun," and I guess it set Bronson off because he's like, he flipped out and he took the dude's head and just slammed it into the windshield. And I think he killed.
He calls him a weekend warrior.
Weekend warrior, yeah. Which is he's like he has no respect for the guy for not enlisting full time in the service. So that really set him off and kind of caused him to go into a rage and I guess murder this guy. I don't know. It looked like he was dead.
Yeah,
so
he
that
was.
kind of that and the whole melting of previous hobos or the previous bums kind of causes an investigation. So we do have kind of a small plot involving the investigation of what's going on, really in this particular part of New York with this junkyard.
Yeah.
And the guy that runs the junkyard. That's a whole other thing too. Mr. Schneiser, I think his name is. The guy that runs the junkyard.
Yeah.
Which to
dude.
me, yeah, he's a big guy, but he was in Troma films. He was in a lot of Troma movies. You know, he's in Toxic Avenger and shit like that. So I'm not really being original here, but this really does feel like the Troma movie that never was. It's a Troma movie that's really, really well shot. But it still has the humor and the wacky zaniness of a Troma film.
I mean, I could see Lloyd Kaufman working on something like this.
Yeah,
most definitely. There's another body melt film that's similar, Slime City.
Slime City. Oh yeah, that's another one. Yeah, for sure. Takes place in New York as well. Yeah, dude. There's a Schneiser. Is this Schneiser? I think it's Schneiser. He's got a secretary, I think, who's this like Japanese, I think she's Japanese, lady who really is kind of like fostering care for Fred's younger brother, because Fred's younger brother kind of just hangs out.
She kind of feeds all the homeless people and takes care of them out there. It's almost like there's two sides of the junkyard, really. You got Brunson's side, and then you've got the side. I think the big guy or whatever, he owns the whole junkyard, but I think it's split. And you almost got like the good guys over here, and then you've got Brunson's bullshit over there. And she don't do anything with them.
Yeah, she kind of avoids them.
Yeah, you can tell a lot of people avoid that area.
Yeah.
But yeah, I noticed that she was like feeding the homeless and stuff like that too. At one point, she was like carrying out dinner trays and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Because even there's dialogue where he's like, "Why do you take care of them?"
Yeah, he calls her Florence Nightingale. He's like, if you want to be Florence Nightingale, you do it on your own time. Don't do it on company time. So he's basically like, hey, if you want to take care of these bums, which he hates them. He hates them, but not to the point where he's willing to kick them off his lot, which is weird. He has such a hatred towards them. And maybe it's because like he wants to keep her around, because he said like basically she's running the show, and she told him like basically if you get rid of me, you're like that's all the help you're going to get. So he kind of that's why he keeps him around, because I was also wondering like why does he keep him around if he hates him so much? That's pretty much the motivation, I guess, for keeping them around. He kind of likes her and kind of takes a liking. Well, not kind of. He does take a liking toward her. So, but yeah, like Fred and his brother live in like this really badass like
tire fort.
Yeah, because there's tires built up into this huge like condo kind of thing, and they kind of live in it. Yeah, it's really neat, man. It's a cool location.
Definitely.
And their buddy Bert, oh my god, dude, he's fantastic. Their comedic friend. Yeah. Oh, dude, he's great. That scene when he's like in the grocery store has got to be one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's so good.
And guys, I hope you don't flag us with what I'm about to say, but where he calls that woman a honky bitch so many times. Dude, I was fucking rolling. And then he's like, "You're gonna believe this honky bitch over me?" I was like, "Oh my god." And she's like, "Oh."
It's like what she think this is, junior high? I was dying when she told the manager on him when she caught him stealing.
I like how he was like, I've got a receipt for all this.
Pulled the receipt out.
And he's like, this is for dog food.
It's all dog food.
He's like, okay. And he's like, well, there's chicken coming from your pants. And he goes, well, isn't there chicken in dog food?
Dude, he's got so many amazing lines in this grocery store, man. When he gets caught stealing, oh god, dude, it's fantastic.
It's hilarious.
But like I said, there's a lot of shit that is said in the movie that's written into the script that you really cannot repeat. It's just so offensive, like overtly offensive, to the point where you're like, damn.
Yeah, but that's the thing, and it goes to show the different time periods, because at the time period you could make jokes like that and you can say stuff like that in movies, and it's comical, it's comic relief. But these days you can't say stuff like that because there's just so much offense on everything.
Somebody's gonna get offended. I guarantee if anybody,
I'm not gonna lie, if somebody calls me a honky, I'm gonna laugh. Like that shit's gonna be funny to me.
Right.
I'm not very offended.
Yeah, it's just something you don't hear very often too. It's such a word of its time.
Really?
But I don't know, dude. There's oh man, what goes into the melting scenes, and I wonder how they did it with the colors and the ooze and how it shoots out of the bodies. And there's and I'm not mistaken, I think it's on the on the special features of this Blu-ray, there's a meltdown. It's called the Meltdown Memoirs, and it's a full-length documentary on the making of this movie. And I want to sit down really and watch it because I really want to know what went into the special effects and how they were able to pull off these effects and stuff like that. Because it's really cool. It's just something in a lot of body melt movies you just don't see. I mean, you see the melting, but the colors and the vibrantness and how it's done is just really unique, and it's really, really interesting. So I really want to go through and check out that documentary when I get a chance, man. I should have done it before we even covered this movie, just so I can bring some different tidbits to the discussion. But like I said, it's a longer documentary too. If I'm not mistaken, it's like closer to 2 hours or something like that. So it's pretty lengthy. So I'm sure they go into a lot of detail, which is really cool. But movies like this, you just hope for a documentary on, because you just want to know how it's made and who came up with this idea. Like, you really get curious about this kind of stuff. It's almost a movie where even if a lot of people, it doesn't sound like their cup of tea and they don't want to watch something like this, the fact that it's made and the fact that it's out there really probably would intrigue a lot of people. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. And honestly, like you said, yesterday when we were talking kind of pregame a little bit, just a movie like this in general, it's almost good to have in kind of background. Like, I could see myself, like we talked about, where I would have game nights over here, and I would have people over playing games and stuff, like cards and stuff like that. And I would have Texas Chainsaw playing in the background, because there's always going to be that one person that gets up and goes to the bathroom and is like, what the fuck is that? Why are we watching that? I could see this being one of those movies where I've got it on in the background. People get up and they're like, that guy just fucking melt into a toilet.
Right. Yeah. Did that fat bomb just explode into a
right
mess of goop?
Did that guy just say, "Wizzy, you homo"?
Yeah. Dude, there's a lot. Like I said, there's always something going on.
It really is. It's kooky as fuck.
It really is. And like I said, this is the whole theme of what we're going to be doing the next month. Seeing New York in the late 80s is just something special, man. It really is. From 80, well, no, I'm not even going to say that. Even from the 70s to the 80s, that time period of New York is just special. It is, dude. It's something I just gravitate to. I literally have to find it and run down. And I've done this before. I've ran down every movie that I've ever could find that was shot in New York in that time period to own, just because I love seeing the cohesiveness of all these movies and how it looks. You can see it steady, like almost a regression in a way of how grimy it is and how nasty it can get. Especially in the movies I was talking about earlier, like The Exterminator and Vigilante and movies like that, man, where you really can tell. There's a lot of 42nd Street shots, and
even like in Maniac.
Right, and Maniac's a perfect example. Basket Case, movies like that really, it almost feels like a love letter and a tribute to that time period in New York, even without really trying to be. It's just a lot of these films were shot. I know in the case of Maniac and Basket Case, a lot of scenes were shot guerrilla style, where they got out on a camera, shot a scene, and had to get out because they didn't have permits to shoot. So it's really like it's just a fascinating time period in cinema history. And like I said, I have to seek out and watch every film I can of this time period just to soak it in and enjoy it, because it's not like that now. I mean, I've went up to New York and it's so clean and so pristine in the city, or in the city, like any borough you go. Well, I wouldn't say any borough. There's still, there's still problems and things like that. But for the most part, like Manhattan, like all these main boroughs are cleaned up and they're really nice, and they're really taking a stance on that. So it's something that you have to, if you want to see it, you go watch a movie and you relive it. And I'm sure a lot of people that have watched these movies and stuff like that, or people from New York, have lived this and know about it. My dad's told me plenty of stories about it because he grew up in that time period. So it's just fascinating to see, man. And I have to say, me being a huge New York Met fan, I saw a lot of Mets memorabilia in this movie too, and it just soothed my heart and it won me over. Because when they're doing the buildings on fire, that apartment building's on fire, and Fred's in there and he's like going through the apartments trying to get down or trying to outrun the dude. There's a New York Met keychain on one of the tables. And then there's another scene when the guy gets the goop from the melting bum on his face and he starts melting. There's an extra in the background with a New York Met hat. And it's just, oh man, I love it. So cool.
I wonder if that was kind of splashed in by the director or something. Maybe he's a huge Mets fan.
Maybe it was. I know, well, and I'm not going to get on a tangent again, but I know at that time the Mets had won the 86 World Series. So there was a real hype in the late 80s for the Mets, and there was a lot of Mets gear and Mets memorabilia in movies like Coming to America and even movies like City Slickers, where Billy Crystal actually wore a Mets hat.
Yep.
So yeah, man, in that time period the Mets were on top, and they were king. And there was a lot of, I actually have that's another list on my letterbox of movies that have Mets memorabilia or Mets hats in them. And I have a list of a couple of films. Well, at this point, I think 6 films that actually feature a Mets hat. So it's pretty cool. But this is one of them. It's on the list.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were talking earlier about the colors popping and stuff. I think one of the reasons why this film kind of resonates to me a little bit is kind of going back to my childhood. We watch these movies based around our childhood and stuff. It's very nostalgic for us in certain films. And I'm actually a fan of this movie. But you remember the 90s movie Hook?
Yeah.
With Robin Williams?
Yeah.
I love that movie. I grew up watching that movie and everything. The scene where they get into the food fight, and I remember all the fucking neon colors. It's like it was like whipped cream, but neon colors, and they were just fucking throwing it at each other. They were just a neon color mess. So this movie, almost like the melt scenes, remind me of that, like a little bit, And so I think that's why it kind of resonates to me a little bit. It's all those neon colors, just pops. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, man. That's interesting. I've never actually, believe it or not, I've never seen Hook. So,
oh man,
Yeah, dude, I've never seen it, so that's actually really cool.
It's actually pretty fun.
I know. I think it's a Spielberg movie. This is one I've never seen,
Wow.
uh, which is insane. I know I've seen pretty much all of his movies, so the fact that I haven't seen Hook is kind of like, but it is literally Hook is one of those movies where it's like you grew up with that movie. You've seen it when you were a child or you were a kid. So
I've actually experienced it sitting down watching it with the kids too, like my kids, and
that's pretty cool.
yeah, I love it.
I think
it's so fun.
I'm sorry, we're getting off a tangent again, but isn't Dustin Hoffman? Doesn't he play Captain Hook?
Yep.
That's fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman's fantastic, so I definitely got to check that out.
Yeah. And oh gosh, what's his name? I forget his name, but he's a well-known actor in England. A little short, chubby guy. He plays in the movie as well. It's kind of like the police, like the scenes in England where I guess he's like the police commissioner or whatever. When the kids first get taken by Hook, he comes in and investigates. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to sit down and watch that, man. Maybe I can get my kids together and we can sit down and watch it.
Oh, it's a fun time.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to this movie.
Right. But I don't know, man. Like I said, this movie is one of those movies where it kind of reminds you of things. It kind of
You were talking about
it does, but then in a way, there's so much originality in this movie because it doesn't really have a heavy like plot driven narrative. It just takes place and things just happen for no rhyme or reason. Things just happen.
Well, I had a hard time when watching this movie. I did have a hard time like distinguishing who the fuck the main character was. I mean, I get it. I at times I'm sitting there going, well, maybe it's Fred, but then I'm like, well, maybe it's Fred's little brother.
Right.
I mean, it's clearly one of those two boys, or maybe it's both boys. They're the main characters.
I'd say it's definitely more Fred because it seems like Fred's little brother. The majority of his scenes are in the tire condo that they live in. He doesn't really get out of that much until we get to the end. He's really the majority of his scenes are right there, and I think his scenes are important because it really shows where he's motivated to get out and do things and be successful and everything like that. But it's almost like he just really wants to be with his brother and kind of pull his brother out of a rut and get him out of the life of being a bum. But his brother, I mean, I'm telling you, I've said it a couple times already. Fred just really enjoys being a bum. He has no aspirations to do better, to do anything. There's even a commentary when we talk about Nam where he said, there's a line where Fred's like, you wouldn't know how Dad was and stuff like that. When he got back from Nam, he was so fucked he wouldn't even let us watch Godzilla movies or something like that. His brother's like, well, I don't remember that. He's like, yeah, because back then you were still doing the backstroke in his balls. Just that line was so fucking good, dude. It was so great. But yeah, there's another commentary on Nam and how it affects, the vets that came back and stuff like that. So, there's a little bit of that sprinkled here and there within this movie, which is, like I said, it's relevant because it happens quite a few times. So they're definitely trying to say something there. And like I said, you kind of get what they're going with on that. But it's cool to see James Lawrence in this movie too, because he's fucking funny as hell. And just every time he's on screen, it's the way he talks and the way he enunciates and the way he says things that just make him so fucking funny. It's not even what he's saying, it's just the way he's saying it. He was like that in Frankenhooker too, where I was always laughing just because of the way he would say shit. It wasn't even the shit that he was saying, it was just the way he said it. But in this, it's a perfect example of that because he plays like the doorman to this gangsters club. Yeah. And he kind of sees so this is a kind of a plot device in the movie as well, which admittedly is not my favorite part of the movie. It's actually the part I really hate the most is anything involving Nick Durant's girlfriend. I just hated everything.
I did like that, and I don't get me wrong, rape is not it's not a cool thing. I will say that, but like during the rape scene, Shit was hilarious. She was like, "Kiss me," and he's like, "No,"
Yeah.
because she had throw up prior, and he's like grossed out and repulsed by her throwing up and shit.
This is Fred, because Fred like picks her up because she's drunk in an alleyway throwing up and stuff like that. He just happens to be in the alleyway, so he picks her up, takes her back to his place, his tire condo.
She
And
thinks that he's the mob or like the mob boss, right? Yeah, yeah. That's just
his name is, I think his name's Nick Durant in the movie.
yeah.
He's played by the guy from the Goodfellas. I've seen him a lot in movies too, but he always plays this really good gangster.
Hmm.
So to see him in this is like perfect because he really pulls off gangster perfectly.
Which I think honestly, this movie could have done without that subplot.
Whole subplot, yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, honestly, I get it because they have to add more to Fred's plight and what he's going through. Because after he picks up the Nick Durant's girlfriend and leaves her there, she gets taken by the hobos and I guess raped by them. You don't see it, thank God. I don't want to see all that shit. But yeah, that scene is so uncomfortable when the hobos are watching him get it on with her in the condo. It's so fucking cringy and uncomfortable. It's like, oh, it's disgusting.
yeah.
But like I said, not my favorite part of the movie. It really drags the movie down a lot. That whole thing with the girlfriend and even the shit afterwards with the Mr. Schneiser and her, like, it's so fucking
I like when he's talking to the police and he's like, they were like, "Yeah, we found multiple traces of semen, just all kinds of semen in her." And he's like, "Oh, can you trace that back to individuals or?"
It's fucking gross, man. Yeah, he's like the third to the last had syphilis or something like that. It's fucking gross. But yeah, all that shit, man, I could have done without. They could have found a way to kind of tie in the cop's character in the end with that, without having the hitman in there, and which that scene admittedly was pretty cool when he fought the hitman and kind of puked on him when he fucked him up.
That was so fucked up. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna beat your ass, throw you into a urinal, and then throw up on your head.
Throw up on you, yeah. But
And
yeah,
walk away like a boss.
like I said, he was already investigating this area anyway because he suspected that. I'm sure he suspected that Bronson had something to do with the melting of the hobos, even though he doesn't know how that even occurred. I'm pretty sure he was convinced that he had something to do with it because he was kind of investigating their whole organization anyway. So he was already wanting to take him down, which that fight between Bill the cop and Bronson was fucking awesome. I loved it, man. They really like beat the shit out of each other. No joke.
Yeah. It was almost kind of like a battle of good versus evil.
Yeah. Well, they fitted each other. They sized up well because they're both big, burly fucking dudes that
But
look like
you don't see that right away.
Yeah.
With the cop, with the Peter cop or whatever, the investigator, he's always wearing like a jacket and stuff. So when he takes off his jacket to fight him, he's like, God, he's built, and I'm like, holy shit, I didn't see that,
And Bronson is also built. So, and I think I'm not quite sure if Bill was a veteran or not. Like if he was in Nam or anything like that, that would have been pretty interesting to have two men square off. One on the good side of moral and justice and stuff like that. The other guy was the complete opposite side of that, who's like deplorable and homicidal and a lunatic and just really doing heinous shit. Like it's pretty cool to have them. It's like the true battle of good and evil in a sense. So the fight scene was really interesting, and he broke his fucking femur bone knife in his back, and it broke off.
I was actually cringing. Was like at like one point, like so he stabs him in the back. It breaks off, and there's like just a chunk of it in the back, just like hanging out, and like he's like trying to grab it, and he can't grab it, and the whole time Bronson's just like throwing him around like a fucking rag doll, and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna fucking hit his back, and it's gonna like drive in even deeper, and I'm just like, oh god.
Bronson's lady was kicking him, and it was like, oh, she was kicking the fucking piece inside of his back more. I was like, ugh. It's fucking gnarly, dude. Because you could see it like embedding deeper and deeper, and it's like, like sticking on that.
That chick was fucking weird.
Oh, dude, she was not very attractive lady.
No. That's an understatement, really.
Yeah, truly. But yeah, dude, there's I'm kind of curious, man. Out of the multiple melting scenes in this movie, and there's quite a few, which really in the middle part of the movie, it's heavy in the beginning, and then it kind of takes a long break in the middle where you don't get a lot of melting scene, and then it gets heavy at the tail end of the movie, like the third act. So there's really a good chunk in the movie where nothing's like happening as far as melting and shit like that. So I noticed that this go around, I never really noticed that. I always felt like it was streamlined, and you got a lot of almost like how slasher films are, where you have a kill every such and such minutes to keep the pace
going.
Yeah. I kind of felt the same way with this, but then watching it this time, I'm like, oh wow, no, they don't really do that.
Nope.
It's kind of like beginning heavy and then end heavy, and then there's a large chunk where that's not happening. So,
but in the middle, you got so much subplots happening and stuff.
So much, so much subplot for a movie that doesn't really have a
plot.
It's fucking weird. But out of all the, I want to say out of all the melting scenes, which one's your personal favorite?
Oh man, that first one is fun. I really dig the first one.
Yeah.
Just the toilet, just all the colors. The first time you see it, I like the eye to, not eye. I guess you would say the attention to detail, because when he first drinks it, he goes bah, and like his tongue comes out, and it's like all blue.
Yeah.
And then like his body just starts like you see the blue coming from his hand at first, and then he holds his hand up again, and like these two fingers are nothing but bone.
They're melting. Wow, it's so cool, dude. I love the effects in this movie.
I really do. Yeah. And to know they're practical effects, that's really cool. Kind of makes you wonder if it was like wax or something.
Yeah. Well, so the toilet bum is your favorite melting scene.
Yeah, that's probably. What's yours?
It'd have to be when Wizzy melts. I like that scene because when he starts to melt, he hits like the wall, and then you just get spray and splatter everywhere, and it's like, and they really stick with like purple, and it's like a dark kind of purple, and it's really vibrant against the wall. It's really cool. It reminds me of the scene in Tenebrae when their girl gets her arm kind of lopped off, and she sprays the blood against the wall. It reminds me of that. I love that scene. The Wizzy melt scene is probably my favorite.
Okay.
That plus he's such a dick. Like you want to see him get his. And it builds up to that too, because so when Fred finally finds out, because it's a gradual thing, there's a lot of instances where Fred could have been easily melted, but someone saves him, or he loses the bottle or whatever, he gets stolen, whatever. So when he finds out that it's the Tenafly Viper that's making people melt, he has a history of Wizzy anyway, where he can't stand the guy, so he really kind of baits him into taking his Viper from him. So he walks down the street, talking shit, this and that, trying to get Wizzy to actually come after him. And when he finally does, and he beats him up, he gets the bottle, and he's about to drink it and shit. And then Bert comes in and hits him and shit like that. And he's like, "No, man, let him have the bottle. Let him have it. Don't take it from him or whatever." And then he hits Bert. So the build up to it is even better, and then you get that payoff with him melting. It's perfectly done, man. It's my
right on. I can see that. Yeah, I don't know, man. I like that whole shot with the dude melting in the toilet.
I mean, it is the money shot. It's the one on the cover. It's the one you see in the background of like on the still shots and everything in the movie. You see it. Well, you do see the Wizzy one too, but I just love the way it almost like, and that's another thing it reminds me of when his face kind of distorts and everything like that, and it melts away. It kind of reminds me of what happens to Palmer in The Thing. I don't know why. His face always kind of reminded me of that. So that's another.
I can see that.
But yeah, that's definitely my favorite. So you like the toilet bum? I like Wizzy. Okay, cool. I also like the big bum when he explodes because it's the only time you really even see that in a movie. Somebody exploding from it instead of like melting away.
Should we talk about the infamous scene?
Oh yeah,
The monkey in the middle scene.
the dick keep away scene, the hot potato. Oh, dude, that's when the movie just takes a turn into absurdity, and it's just like, okay, this is a farce, and this is heightened reality. It's the shit that's not gonna happen because you get if you want to set it up, man, you can. You probably will do a better job than I can. But
so Brunson is sitting next to a wall, and all of a sudden this dick just comes through the wall, kind of like a glory hole, and starts pissing on Brunson.
yeah, he's beating up Fred too.
Yeah. So he just kind of reaches up with his femur knife and just like
just hacks it off.
Cuts the dude's dick off.
Yeah. So you have a prosthetic dick that's getting thrown around.
I like how it like slow shotted it as it's flailing through the air.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of shots of that when it's doing that. It's fucking fantastic. So they're basically all the bums in the compound are like playing keep away with it, trying to keep it away from the dude. And he's just desperately trying to grab it and keep his dick to himself, but they're just tossing it around. And at one point somebody kicks it and it's just like basically goes.
Yeah, a guy like fucking powerhouse kicks it, just like punts it into the fucking air.
He punts it into the air. And it's just like you see a prosthetic dick just flailing around in the air. It just keeps going.
I mean, what would you do in an instance? First instinct, a dick flops into your hands. Like, I'm gonna fucking throw that bitch to the ground. That's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm not.
These guys are like, oh, I'm gonna toss it to the next person.
I'm not playing hacky sack with it or anything like that. Like I'm dropping that bitch. I'm not. It's just not going down like that. But yeah, I mean, at one point Fred tries to save it for him and get it back to him, but that fails. So, but it's the guy's reaction, like his dick's been lobbed off. He's not like in pain. He's like, it's a joke. It's like overly comedic to the point where it's like a farce. It's like
it's what you would see in a fucking Troma film.
Yeah, exactly. That is the most Troma-esque scene that you can have in the movie in its entirety. I mean,
truly.
It's great. It's comedic as fuck. But you really like. That's when the movie, even up until that point, there's absurd shit. But that's when the movie takes a full turn into absurdity. And you're just like, whatever. This shit's happening. I don't even care about how it's possible or anything like that. And then at the end, he gets his dick and he's trying to catch a cab, and the cab driver just pulls away. So he hops on the back of a school bus. So he's holding his with these kids screaming at him. It's so ridiculous, dude. It's just such absurdity.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, but it is.
So I did jot down some like quick little nods to some really dark humor. There's a scene where there's a guy, I forget if he was smoking a cigarette or if he was trying to eat. He was doing something, but I noticed he had nubs. He had no hands.
God, yeah.
And so it's just a guy with no hands sitting there, and Fred walks past him and he's like, "Hey, Gary, looking good."
Yeah.
I was like, ah. And then there was another where somebody was yelling at a guy with like no legs. I just noticed there was like some dark humor like that.
Oh, there's
scattered.
Tons of it.
Yeah, it's like, wow.
There's it's just hard to really like say lines from the movie because they could be so offensive. You can't. I love the line from Bill when he's in the police station and they're writing out the report, and he's asking the clerk, the clerk at the front. He's like, "Hey man, did you just get that report and this and that?" He's like, "Yeah man, didn't you read it?" He's like, "Man," he's like, "I read like old people fuck." Just that line is just fantastic. That's so good, dude.
It's great.
And did you catch the coroner when the coroner's in there? He's like eating everything. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, gross, man.
They always do that in all movies. Have you noticed that?
I noticed-
There's always a corner like sitting there fucking eating a sandwich or something. I could just picture that actually happening. Like just somebody, there's like a body laying there. There's like, open cavity organs laying in there, and they're just chowing away at like a pastrami sandwich or something.
It's almost like a trope in horror films.
It
Like
truly is.
the coroner that's eating while he's examining a body or whatever.
It's not just in horror movies though, because I mean I remember there's a
See,
scene in like Men in Black where the coroner's walking around eating and shit like that too.
yeah, it's fucking bizarre, dude. I don't get it. Maybe it's just like they're so like desensitized to it, like it doesn't phase them. That's the best way to really portray that.
I guess.
Yeah, but you see it a lot. I've definitely noticed it a lot.
Yeah, even Return of the Living Dead, he's like grabbing a cup of coffee with his bloody gloves.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like,
perfect example.
yeah.
Did you notice when like the fat bum when he exploded and the shit got all over the place and it got on Fred? Like Fred kind of hid behind, like he flew in the air when it exploded. So it's almost like a bomb went off and he was caught in the crossfire, but he landed near a car and then kind of rolled under the car to kind of shield himself. But then when he got up, he's like, oh shit. He's getting it off of him and stuff like that. He's like, ooh, like it was burning him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's a scene when the dude gets the shit. There's a hobo that's on like a scaffolding, and he melts, and just guys just walking by casually, and he looks up because he sees the shit coming down, and he looks up and it lands right in his face, and it kind of burns. So apparently the shit burns too when it's made contact.
I did notice that there was like a scene where, if I'm not mistaken, it was that exact scene where it was dripping onto the concrete.
Yeah.
And you could actually it was like steaming as if it was melting the concrete a little bit too.
Which is insane, dude. If it melts concrete,
like an acid.
Imagine what it's gonna do to that dude's face. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It's wild.
Yeah. Going back to that scene though in the police station with the where the mob boss. So there was like a little meeting there where the mob boss was sitting there with his door guy. What's his name? I forget his name again.
Lorenz.
Yeah, and then your investigator, and they're sitting there, and he's like going off. He's like, I don't give a fuck, because he's like ratting the mob boss out like crazy, and he's like going off and everything. And so when he turns to the investigator, and he's like, you got that witness program, right? And he was like, no, we haven't even talked about that yet.
Yeah,
and he's like, oh. He walks out, and the mob boss is like, you're a fucking dead man. That's so funny. And then at the end, because it shows a clip of him being tied up with the mob boss
at the very end.
Yeah. That shit was funny.
It's almost like a post-credit scene.
Mm-hmm.
Credits start rolling at that point, so it is, yeah. Post-credits. Very, very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for the time period, this film, I think honestly, it was way before its time. I don't think it probably got enough credit back in the day. But
I can honestly see a lot of mainstream fans of movies and stuff absolutely fucking hating this movie.
Oh yeah,
just
definitely.
It. And so when we recommend this movie, when we talk about our recommendations and stuff like that, you have to understand what you're getting into. This movie is absurd. It's got really raunchy, offensive humor. It's got very, very like dark shit happening in it.
It's got a little bit of everything, even necrophilia.
Really, at the end of the day, it really does have a little bit of everything. But at the end of the day, the tone is still like, I don't know, man. It's one of those movies that fits, or it kind of works despite itself, in a sense.
And we've done this because I think we both sat down and watched this movie together. Yeah. You actually introduced me to this film before I bought it. And this is one of those films that you can sit down with a buddy, have a couple beers, and laugh at.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And just honestly have a good time. I mean, it by no means should you go into this movie with a very serious thought process.
Yeah.
because it's just not going to work for you.
Yeah, you don't go into a movie like Street Trash expecting like a movie like The Exorcist or something, or The Shining. That's not the kind of movie you're going to get. This is a very, very comedic, body melting horror film that really relishes on the body melting, in the scenes that take place when that happens. And I mean, for there being a gap in the movie where there's not a lot of melting scenes, there was a lot of, like, when you talk about a body count with the melting scenes, there's a lot of people that die from melting in this movie. So
yeah,
it's got a high body count in general. So,
well,
and it's not a slasher film or anything like this. It's not a true body count film, but it does have a higher body count. So it's interesting how it's a movie that's it's I don't know. It's one of those movies that is just on its own little island of films that have been made that don't really have, like, they're similar to movies like Slime City, or even like The Stuff, maybe even, because there's people that kind of melt away and stuff in The Stuff, but this is one of those movies. The tone of The Stuff is completely different from this one. I mean, there's a little bit of comedic stuff in The Stuff. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely some commentary there. But this is a movie that stands kind of on its own little plateau, and it's to me it's special because it's a movie that is very, very niche, I guess is the best way to describe it. I don't know. It's like
it's definitely its own, like, subgenre.
Right. It's the Troma film that isn't a Troma film. Yeah,
I agree there. It's really well written for to take a film where it's barely got a plot and make it work. It's well written. Right. The actors, I can't say anything bad about any of the actors.
Right. Well, it's not like a lot of big name actors too. Even the ones that are familiar names are guys that only appeared in a couple of movies in their whole career. So it's a lot of, like, one-off guys, one-off actors that this is their only movie that they ever appeared in. I think our main protagonist, if you want to call him that, Fred, this is the only movie he ever did. So, I mean,
and he was brilliant.
Yeah,
I will say he was like the Rico Suave of homeless people, though.
Yeah,
he really was a good-looking guy for being a homeless guy. Like, that beard looked really good.
Yeah, yeah, he was definitely rocking a beard. Rocking a full beard
and wavy hair.
Dude, absolutely. There's a lot of beards and mullets, and no, I don't think there was too many mullets, but there's a lot of bearded dudes in this one.
Yeah, but I mean, even the homeless people just look very dirty and grimy, and
it felt like a lot of, like, the actors that they got to portray the homeless people, you would believe that they were, like, actually homeless dudes that they pulled off the street.
They probably pulled a couple extras from
from
little shanty, towns or whatever.
Yeah,
I imagine,
man, because they really played those characters to a T. So
again, this was the late '80s in New York City, and they probably did. They probably used a lot of them as free extras. Hey, you want to be in a movie?
Yeah.
Here's a bottle of liquor.
Right.
I don't know how that went, but
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we need to watch documentaries on this.
I definitely want to, man. After watching this time around, I'm trying to think if I ever watched it before. I don't think I have.
You know what I couldn't believe? I couldn't believe the time frame of this film. After watching it and stuff, and actually paying attention to it and trying to critique it this go round, I really noticed, like, wow, this is kind of a longer film. You don't get that because it keeps you engaged the whole time.
Yeah, in a way it kind of does, but I mean, the runtime on this movie is, I think it says on the Blu-ray, an hour or excuse me, 102 minutes. So yeah, it's a longer film, but it doesn't really feel. The only time it really feels that way is when you get involved with the subplot with Nick Durant's girlfriend, which is my least favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
Those scenes of just, they don't do anything for me. They don't seem to add to the plot or anything like that. I mean, it's getting Nick Durant involved, yeah, but he could have just seen Fred messing around with his girl and could have had a hitman come after him just because he's such a crazy mob guy that he wants to, he could have had that Joe Pesci thing in Goodfellas where he's just hot headed and just wanting to just come after everybody and stuff like that. So it really didn't serve too much for the plot. The cops were already investigating the homeless shanty town anyway, so I don't know. It just never worked for me. That was kind of like they were throwing it in there just to really offend and really, really just make people sick and stuff like that. So, but other than that, man, I enjoy everything else, man. The camera work in this movie, it seriously is like primo.
Yeah.
When I can compare you and your camera shots to a Sam Raimi movie, you're doing it right. I mean,
well, that shot alone was a really good shot. He's totally traveling through that busted up house or whatever the hell that building was.
It's the Evil Dead shot, man, and Raimi does it all the time. I mean, it's brilliant. It's perfectly done, and I love the scene where you were talking kind of about when Fred's walking down the street and the camera's kind of following him going down the street. He's talking to all the homeless people on the street corner and stuff like that. Just the way it's shot, it's just so brilliant.
Yeah,
I love
it. Did he go on to make more films or that we know of?
I don't believe he did. I think this was his only feature film, and then he went on to direct a lot of like TV episodes and stuff like that for different shows.
But there again, I mean, this film, like I said, I don't know what it made in the box office or anything like that.
Probably not much.
I get a feel that it didn't for the time,
Well, it's such a
I think it's a straightforward cult classic at this point. It's got a huge cult following.
100%, yeah. I mean,
this day and age,
people, people in the horror circles and horror groups and stuff. I mean, people love this movie, and people sing its praises all the time. It's one of the best body melt movies ever made. I would tend to agree with that because the body melting itself is probably the best ever done.
I like it.
It's so good.
Do you know what the budget was for this film?
I wish I did.
Estimated 500,000.
Wow,
that's it. So it's a low budget film.
Oh yeah,
true. But I mean, for the late '80s, that might have been a higher up than a low budget film.
Anytime you're talking about less than $1 million, you're really low budget.
So, but yeah, like I said, I don't know what it made in the box office or anything like that. I don't even know if this movie. Well, I mean, I guess it would have had a theatrical release. I would imagine.
Right.
It probably didn't stay in the theaters too long because of some of the subject matter.
I wonder how it did. Probably did better on home media releases and stuff like that than anything. This movie's been released a couple times through Synapse. I know they had 2 different versions of a DVD. I don't know if there was anything in particular about the runtime or any extras involved, but they had 2 different covers, 2 different releases on the DVD, and then they released a Blu-ray. So there's a couple different versions they released just from Synapse alone. So
I don't know what version it is, but I did read up that I don't know if one of the versions was like 2 hours and 3 minutes long.
Wow.
So
yeah,
I don't know if it's been edited out. Some stuff has been edited out or what, but I know that it could have used more editing. I think that's what might kill it for some people.
Yeah. Like I said, the scenes where Durant's girlfriend and stuff like that, for me, that's a big like they could have trimmed that, kind of reworked that a little bit. I think that was just mainly thrown in there just for shock value and stuff like that, which occasionally can work, and then just sometimes it just doesn't work. I don't know. It never really worked for me. I do love James Lawrence, though. It's good to see him, but I just think they could have taken all that and kind of reworked it a little bit. But
what did you think about I think we're okay saying that we both liked the makeup department of this film. But did you notice that they were trying to make like the beater cop have like dark circles on his eyes, and a lot of times he looked like a fucking like raccoon or something.
I was wondering about that. I've always noticed that. And I wonder why they were doing that. Maybe to make him look like he was on edge and he staying
Maybe
up
he
a
was just always tired because he was working a case or something.
lot. Maybe that's, I don't know. But I always thought that was weird because it
Because at
really
one point it looked like he had like a black line going all the way across, like almost like he robbed a bank or something.
right. It really
know?
felt like his eyes were just sunken in. It's really bizarre. I noticed that.
It happens throughout the film though, and it gets progressively darker and darker though. Like he just hasn't slept because of this case.
Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but I imagine that would be the case if I had to guess. But yeah, I did notice that, dude. I was always found that fascinating and interesting
Mhm.
when it came to this movie because I'm like, damn, he's got really dark circles in his eyes and stuff like that. And it's definitely makeup. You can definitely tell.
Yeah,
I always wondered why. That makes more sense than anything, honestly.
yeah,
But
yeah. Well, you got anything else you want to add?
yeah, can we talk about the ending and how cool it is and
Let's do it.
how so throughout the film also Bronson's been having like a fantasy about the Japanese secretary that's kind of been working for Mr. Schneiser. I think his name's Schneiser. I can't remember, but he kind of has a thing for her, and so at the end he kind of, you can tell he kind of gets jealous of because she's really into Fred's little brother,
Mm-hmm.
which is gross, by the way, because the dude's he never showers or anything like that, and she starts like kissing on him and shit like that. I'm like, ugh, it's fucking gross. Dude's filthy. You're kissing all over him and shit. But yeah, she takes him in the back. She's about to, I guess, deflower him, and Bronson pops in a rage, and he's fucking pissed, and he's going after Fred's little brother. And there's an extensive kind of chase scene throughout the junkyard. Well, more in the back where all the car parts and shit are stored, which is really cool. It's a really neat little chase scene through the racks and stuff like that. And he even kills, like, Bronson kills one of the attendants there and shit, which is really mean spirited. Because that guy, you saw him a couple times throughout the movie, but it's like, fuck, man, what that guy ever do to you?
Yeah.
Kind of sad. But yeah, so he's chasing after him. Fred comes in to save the day. He kind of has a bottle of Viper. And he throws it at Bronson and he hits him, and it starts like melting him a little bit, and melting the side of his face. And Bronson starts fucking wigging out at that point, and goes after Fred and starts beating him up and shit like that. And then his brother lands on, what are those things, dude?
Like a CO2 tank.
Yeah, CO2 tank, and he kind of like hits the CO2 tank. It fucking careens and shoots off, and while Bronson has Fred in the air, it hits him almost in the chest, and it completely. I wrote down it was a decapitation, but really it's like his whole chest cavity and his head are completely just dismantled and just completely get ripped from his body. It's fucking gnarly, dude. It's a really gnarly scene, and I think the prosthetic like Bronson head that you see on the ground, it's really cool.
It is, yeah.
Another thing it reminds me of, that head and that prosthetic reminds me of the shit that was done in Day of the Dead when they found the. Were you thinking that too? Because I thought that, yeah, that face, that Private Johnson, I think, where he's still like they're keeping him alive, like Frankenstein's keeping him alive, but his face, like, it's almost the exact same thing.
Yeah, like his eyes are moving and shit.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love when they do shit like that. It really is top notch, like, effects work.
I just like the fact that, like, fuck, what's her name? I forget her name. She like jumps over the head.
Yeah, Wendy.
Yeah, Wendy. Yeah, she jumps over the head. He looks. It's like an upskirt moment.
Upskirt. I wrote it down.
Yeah. And then he turns to he looks at the camera and kind of like smiles.
One last smile, and he's like, yeah, really proud of himself for getting that. That's the last note I wrote, is the upskirt shot.
Yeah.
Funny. Because even in death, he like wanted to get one look.
Yeah.
So funny, dude. I mean, the ending I love. The ending was fucking fantastic.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was so fun. Yeah. Yeah, that whole scene though. Just so crazy.
Yeah. The movie itself is just fucking wild, dude. It's
It
a
is.
bonkers movie. That really cannot be understated. I mean, people that are more into mainstream horror, like they want to see The Conjuring and Sinister and stuff. I imagine people like that absolutely fucking hating this movie.
Mhm.
But me loving the kind of shit I like, and you loving the kind of shit you like, I mean, our tastes are almost identical. We love shit like this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's fun to us, man. It's like, it's almost like, just like I want to say like a comfort film, something you could put on, like you were saying, like put it on in the background and have it like if you're doing a party or something like that, have like random shit happening and people are like every once in a while going, what the fuck's happening? Just being super curious, but not wanting to sit down and watch the whole movie because you know they're gonna fucking hate it. So yeah, that's this movie in a nutshell, man.
Yeah.
It appeals to a very, very niche audience, but that audience is out there.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's morbid and dark and just kooky as all hell.
It really is, dude. Seriously, man, we couldn't. I've watched this movie at this point like so many damn times, dude. It's just like I remember scene for scene what happens. It's just, I don't know. Time you want to sit down and just turn your brain off and watch bums melting. This is the movie to do that.
I wonder their thought process, like when they were thinking of this, like the script hadn't been written or anything. They were probably just sitting around like discussing the writing of this film, or I really want to know what was going through their head at the time, like what were they thinking? Is it kind of like a thought process that like almost like Lloyd Kaufman goes through?
Yeah. It's almost like they had the basic framework for what they wanted, and then while they're writing the script, they're just like, let's see what other wacky shit we can throw in here and get away with. It's almost like what they were trying to get away with, because there's so much of shit that happens.
I wonder if this film was inspired by Troma, because Troma was around this time period, right?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I wonder if they were inspired by like Lloyd Kaufman's work and stuff.
Maybe they were, dude. Maybe that's why it feels so much like a Troma film in general.
And isn't like you said, the guy that runs the junkyard, he is in Troma films, correct?
He is in Troma films. Yeah, I remember him from. I think he's in Class of Nukem High. He's definitely in Toxic Avenger.
And that was before this time, correct?
Oh yeah, yeah. So Toxic Avenger came out in '84.
Okay, I wonder if he had a part in this film, like the writing process or the thought process behind it.
Could have been, yeah.
Because he's a big name in Troma, I believe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, he was a familiar face in Troma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's the Troma connection too. The fact that he's in this and stuff like that. Feels Troma just seeing him.
Even if he was, well, the thing is even if he wasn't in this film and there was some other actor there,
yeah, it
would still feel like a Troma film,
just because of the zaniness and the wackiness and the subject matter.
Yeah, definitely.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Any last thoughts or notes?
No, not for me, man. I wanted to definitely mention that ending. The Bronson death was fucking wicked. Yeah. Loved it. Not technically a melting scene, but I think because he threw that Viper on him, that's what caused that whole chest cavity to fucking just completely get ripped from him. That happened because it really looked like when his head was on the ground, it was melting, like his chest cavity was melting.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely caught by that Viper throw.
I would be honest with you, but a tank that's under pressure shooting at a human body, I doubt it's going to withstand anything like that.
Yeah,
it's like shooting a torpedo through a body.
Yeah, no joke.
Yeah. Which that's done in another film.
Oh really?
It was done in Freddy versus Jason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because Freddy was lopping off the end of the CO2 tanks and they were shooting.
Firing off.
Yeah.
A couple hit him and he flew backwards. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Definitely.
Didn't go through him though.
No, it didn't go through him. Well, he's a juggernaut too. So Bronson's big. He's not Jason Voorhees big. That's for damn sure.
Definitely
Especially
not.
that Jason. That's like the tallest Jason ever on screen. So, and he's pretty bulky too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this movie's fun. It's a blast.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. Every time I watch it, I have a lot of fun with it.
I always find myself having a good time with this movie.
So this was actually out of my whole collection. I think this was my second Synapse film I purchased too.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Which one was first? Do you remember?
Intruder.
Intruder. That's one of my favorites, honestly.
That's such a good one.
I wish I had because I think it had, Intruder was the one that had, I believe, the work print version. They did a work print version of it. And I wish I got lucky enough to grab that one, but unfortunately, I just got the one with the basic edition. But still, having that movie on Blu-ray is primo.
Yeah.
And I mean, with Synapse, you know, you don't ever have to worry about not getting good picture quality with a Synapse Blu-ray. They always come correct.
They do.
They always give you the best of the best when it comes to picture quality. Just like Vinegar Syndrome. I mean, it's another company. You never have to worry about the prints. They're always solid. I wouldn't even say solid. They're fantastic. So
I would say it's up there.
Like pass, you know.
These
guys are the creme de la creme of Blu-ray restoration. So
them, Arrow, Screen Factory.
Even Blue Underground, man. A lot of Blue Undergrounds, the new 4Ks and stuff like that are looking fucking great.
Yeah.
Blue Underground. I remember back in the day, Blue Underground Blu-rays were a little choppy when it came to the picture quality, but man, they have
even the Blue Underground DVDs are amazing.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, there's multiple DVDs of Gialli that I have on Blue Underground that look great. They don't look bad whatsoever. So, yeah, like lately, their 4Ks and their restorations have been top notch.
Nice.
They're definitely and they're going through their old catalog, and I think that's what they're doing is they're re-releasing a lot of their older Blu-ray catalog to kind of step that game up when it comes to the picture quality because it's subpar. Their first run of Blu-rays, to be honest with you, but what they're able to do now, dude, they're rocking and rolling with it. So, but yeah, off on another tangent. Excuse me. If you want, buddy, we can land this plane. We can get to some ratings.
I'm definitely curious as to what your rating is on this.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So you want me to go first? Okay. Well, with this movie, and I stress this for our audience and people. I mean, a lot of people that are going to listen to our discussion on this movie have seen the movie before, so they know what they're getting themselves into. But this movie is not for everyone. I will say that.
No.
It is very niche audience, but the audience that it is for love this movie. And I, for one, am one of those people. I do love this movie very much. Like I said, we've seen this movie. Me and you have seen this movie together. We've watched this. I've watched this plenty of times. I know you've seen this plenty of times. So reviewing this is like it's like nothing. We can rattle off scene after scene after scene after scene that happens and just have fun with it. But like I said, the camera work by Jim Morrow, the director, is so good. He had worked with if I'm not mistaken, was it James Cameron or somebody very, very established in Hollywood, and he honed his craft with that and his camera work in this movie. Like I said, it reminds me a lot of Sam Raimi, very not frenetic, but especially that one shot that we've talked about. Really, really brilliant. I think they moved the camera in the beginning with the chase scene. I think they moved it on like a dolly or like a wagon, and that's what's so low, and they just pushed the wagon. I think that's what they did. So they really not cut corners, but they really found creative ways to get the camera moving, and I really appreciate that, especially for movies shot in this time period in New York. Well, a lot of them are shot guerrilla style. This appeals to me, and it's really, really fantastic. The special effects are brilliant. They're fucking fantastic. The melting scenes, all the scenes in general, when it comes to somebody melting, are brilliantly done. The colors just pop. They're so vibrant, so almost beautiful. The colors are just beautiful. I mean, it's grotesque because it's spew and gross shit coming out of, like, you know, people that are, really, really down on their luck and gross and nasty. But the colors look so beautiful that it really adds a different flair to what you're seeing. And like I said, there's a lot of good humor in this, a lot of good one-liners, some comedic moments that work for me, like the whole Bert in the grocery store. That scene's brilliant. You really gravitate toward Fred, and then you kind of he kind of loses you a little bit when he kind of does the girl wrong, and you're like, this guy, I was on his side for a lot of the movie, and then he kind of like loses me a little bit. So there's a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of character development, because he comes back to save his brother at the end, but character development is not the strongest in this movie. I'll say that. But overall, like I said, the one thing I didn't like about the movie was the Durant girlfriend shit. Not my favorite. Really, it kind of bogs down the movie a little bit. They could have figured out a different way to edit that, or kind of splice that out of the movie, which still the plot would have been moved along, based on the fact that the cops were already kind of investigating this group. So all in all, man, this movie deserves the 4-star out of 5-star that I give it. It's solid. It's so much fun. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but it's still a fun movie that I love.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty much, I agree with you. Again, this is not a film for everyone. This is a film for diehard fans, I guess you would say, especially a small group of diehard fans, really, because even like your average horror buff isn't gonna go out and watch this movie. Might watch it once, but not all the time like we do. So it takes a special group of people, I think. I think this movie was pretty ambitious as well, for it being such a low budget film, and for it to be such a kooky thing, and the time period, like I said, when it came out, I think it probably didn't do good. But nevertheless, it's a good film in my eyes, along with your eyes now. But there's underlying stuff in it. The acting is good. It's solid. If the homeless people weren't truly homeless, and those were actors or extras, really good on their part, because they played it pretty well, even down to like the prostitutes and the pussy wagon.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. Yeah.
But again, they were they acted the part. They were really good. Altogether, I can't say anything too bad about this film. Even though, like I said, it's kind of a sleazy scumbag film, but at the same time, it's brilliant. Camera angles are amazing. Like you said, the shots are wonderful. Practical effects are phenomenal. Even the floppy dick through the air is fun. Yeah. So all in all, yeah, I'm right there with you. 4 stars. I think what kills me the most is, like you said, editing. I think that some of the subplot could have been taken out. The rape scene we could have probably done without. We could have seen him pick her up, take her back to his place, and then let that be the next morning they find the dead body. You know what happened. You could have just left it at that. Like they found the dead body and stuff.
Or Bronson could have killed her. I mean,
yeah, we didn't really need the whole rape scene, even the necrophilia rape scene either. So we could have done without that. I mean, I get it. There was a comical tone to it as well.
Yeah, there was.
But
didn't make it
nevertheless,
any better.
nevertheless. So I'm right there with you. 4 stars out of 5. And again, that's just our ratings. That's not, somebody else might come at this film and go, "Oh, this movie sucked.
Yeah.
It's terrible."
Yeah.
Whatever. It's just our opinion.
I see a lot with this movie. I see a lot of like 4 stars or like 1 star, or just because people cannot handle the subject matter. They don't get it, or it just doesn't appeal to them.
Well, and this also comes down to, like you said, this is it feels like a Troma film. We love Troma.
And
Some
Troma
people
loved by many
hate Troma.
Not by many, but not loved by all. There's a lot of detractors for Troma movies, and just doesn't work for them. And I get it, I understand it, but for me, I love me a good Troma movie, and I know you do as well. So,
well, I like a good movie that you can sit down with a buddy and have a beer and laugh at, and that's what this film is.
Perfect for that.
Even I can't think of one thing on this film that's serious tone. Granted, like the rape scene is kind of a serious tone, but everything else is just slocky and slapstick and just a fun time.
Yeah.
And like I said, for $500,000 or an estimated $500,000, that they did a good job with it.
I would love to know how much of that budget went to special effects, because man,
I think that's the majority of it.
it's got to be.
Because I think a lot of it was on location. They might have had to pay for like permits and stuff, but hell, they could have just went to like somebody that owned a junkyard and said, "Hey, $500, let us film here."
Yeah.
You could definitely tell that was a legit junkyard. It wasn't like it wasn't a set piece. It was an actual location. A lot of it was.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think answering a lot of our questions would be this Meltdown Memoirs documentary. I think I'm going to sit down and check that out.
Yeah, I think I'm going to spend some time this weekend and watch it and thoroughly check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, Tony, you got anything else you want to add?
I do not, buddy. I think that was a fun episode, man. I love covering this one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go ahead and land it then.
Sweet.
All right. Well, folks, we appreciate you watching this episode, and we hope you enjoyed it. And don't take our word for it. Go out and check it out. At least experience it once, whether you hate it or love it, or just give it a chance if you haven't.
Right.
It is a fun time, and like I said, always make sure that you tell your friends about us, and make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, head over to our Facebook group and ask to join. We'd love to have you if this is your first time watching us. Community is growing, so that's awesome. That's always a plus. And also, make sure that you check us out on Letterboxd as well. We haven't plugged that in a while, and would love for you guys to come over and just check out what we're watching. We leave. I don't leave reviews. I just do the star ratings. Maybe I can get into doing the small reviews in there though. But yeah, Tony, what's your Letterboxd? Do you know?
I think it's Horace Bones 89, but I have to double check on that. Like I said, I never really look at my username, but I know if you type in my name, you should be able to find it.
Same with me. If you type in Corey Peak, I'll pop up.
Yeah,
and you can follow me. But yeah, folks, we enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Later, guys.
Later.